Welcome to Retro Logic, episode 54. I'm Dan Caparello here with John Cummins and Sam Wagers, and you're listening to the gamiest gaming podcast on the internet. But Retro Logic isn't just a podcast. It's also a retro game store. It's also a blog. It's also a non-toxic Discord community. It's all kinds of stuff. We've got really cool merch in the game, in the store, and the website you can check out. Go to retrologic.games to check all that stuff out. So this week on Retro Logic, we're going to chat about what we bought. We're going to play some Prices Retro. We're going to chat about the transitioning from 2D to 3D in gaming. And then, of course, we have our community questions on the couch. So, with all that out of the way, guys, how are you guys? My voice is scratchy.
Good.
I've got a scratchy voice tonight.
You should have got some tea like I did.
I get every time with the tea, John.
Oh. I like tea.
Not a tea guy.
I like tea too.
I'm not a tea guy. I can't find a tea that sticks with me. They all kind of taste weird. It's a me problem. But I do have my water, and that's going to get us through.
It's got some good honey infused peppermint tea.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
if you're talking herbal stuff, that doesn't even taste like tea because it doesn't have any tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually.
I drink yerba mate sometimes. Does that count?
Oh,
That
I have a
counts.
bunch of loose tea as well, but this is easy.
I like green tea.
Welcome to the Tea Podcast.
Welcome to Tea Logic.
Tea Logic.
All right, before we jump in this week, I've got a couple of housekeeping items per usual. If you didn't know, we also have a retro music podcast on the network. It's called Retro Groove, and they do a great job, Liam and Adam, going through some of our favorite music in history. They're both vinyl collectors, and they just love music. This week, though, they covered James Bond themes, because we've got the new James Bond movie out, the last Daniel Craig movie, which I'm sad about because I love Daniel Craig. But it was an excellent film, and I recommend it. We've also got Plocktober in full effect. We are about halfway through Plocktober, and we've got a few more events happening this month. Plock Talk episode 2 is scheduled for next Monday. Make sure you get the sign up in the Discord. And be ready on October 25th at 9 p.m. CDT to chat Plock with Sam Wagers, one of two people that I know who have beaten Plock. So
There you go.
there's also a really great episode of Keep Nintendo Weird. Search for that on YouTube and your podcasts for the Plock episode featuring Andros from the Nintendo Pals. The other thing, too, is the blog. Guys, we've got some really interesting articles written by our very own Sam Wagers. We've got analyses of Virtual Console versus Nintendo Switch retro game offerings. We've got games for the SNES, Nintendo Switch online service that you may have overlooked. All kinds of stuff. So go check that out. Guys, what did you buy? What did you play this week? Sam, why don't you go first?
So I bought one game which just arrived today, and that is Maximo Ghosts to Glory. I think this is one of those that just got jogged in my memory. I only ever played a demo of it. But over on the Nintendo Pals Discord, I think it was in response to the Arthur costume in Monster Hunter Rise. But our friend Andros was like, oh yeah, it's cool to see this in 3D. It'd be interesting if they made a Ghosts and Goblins game that was like 3D. And I'm like, oh wait, they did. It was just called something different.
Yeah, why?
And that was Maximo Ghosts to Glory.
So
it actually got a sequel as well.
How
And apparently it was pretty good from what I looked up. I never even played the full game. And then I was like, oh, I can get this for like $11. So I did. And it arrived today.
I'm curious. You're going to have to share because I'm curious of that.
Yeah, I might be streaming that soon. We'll see.
Sweet.
But as far as playing games, I did finish Metroid Dread. I clocked in at just under 7 hours with less than half the items, though. I kind of just decided I wasn't going to go for items because those speed booster things are just nonsense. But I finished that, and last Tuesday I was streaming on the Retro Logic channel and played, keeping with the October theming, played some Haunting starring Poltergeist for the Genesis, as well as Decap Attack for the Genesis. So 2 spoopy Genesis games that you don't see too often. That was a lot of fun. I didn't actually finish either of them, though. I kind of stalled out in Haunting. That game doesn't have like any continues or extra lives.
Whoa.
So I got about halfway through it and then failed. And I was like, well, I could beat the first half of the game again, or I could switch to something else. So I settled on Decap Attack. But I had a lot of fun all the same. It's definitely a different genre of game from what I usually play, but it's still fun.
Sweet.
Oh, and I also, just this weekend, since I had the Genesis hooked up, played some Target Earth, which is also very hard and very interesting. That is made by the same folks that made Cybernator. So it's another mech game. It predates it. I would say Cybernator is a lot better, especially when it comes to presentation. This looks a lot more bare bones. But there's actually, when you think about it, there's a bit more going on, because this game does a lot more with friendly units actually fighting enemy units off screen and stuff. So there's a bit more rendered at once, but what's there doesn't look as pretty.
Cool. Right on, dude. Good. Hey, thanks for streaming on the Retro Logic channel, man. We're going to try to get some more of that. And I was streaming for the first time in a long time today. I nuked my Animal Crossing island and then made a new one, and that was entertaining. Awesome. So, John, you've been getting in the Crazy Taxi train. What's been going on with you?
I did. I bought Crazy Taxi Catch a Ride for the Game Boy Advance, Crazy Taxi 2 for the Dreamcast, and Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller for the Xbox.
And were those all in the same place?
No, I bought them on Mercari.
Oh, okay.
Cheap.
You were seeking them out.
Yes. I played the first one not too long ago with my son on Dreamcast.
And you said, "This is amazing. I am all in on Crazy Taxi."
I played it. I played Crazy Taxi a lot whenever the Dreamcast first came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I just never played any of the other games. And I know you guys have been talking, you had been talking about picking some of the other ones up. So I was like, you know what? These are all pretty cheap. I need to just go, pick them up and try them out, because I have only played the first one.
I went a little crazy with the Taxi. I did.
Yes. The Game Boy one is all right. It's definitely Game Boy Advance Crazy Taxi, but
I was kind of impressed with that one, how well they represented what Crazy Taxi is on a Game Boy, which is pretty crazy that they have like a 3D city. Does it play well? Not necessarily, but it's impressive nonetheless.
It's pretty low frame rate.
Yeah.
It makes the music stand out really bad.
Yeah, the music's not great.
On top of those, I picked up Mischief Makers for the N64.
Yeah, before that game explodes.
I opted for a poor label quality version I got for $20.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it has like a piece of the label missing in the bottom. I was like, I'm just buying it to play. That
game's bound to be expensive. It just is. I'm surprised it isn't right now. So get it while it's hot.
It's one that I never played originally, so I'm kind of looking forward to playing it after hearing about it.
It does seem to be recognized now disproportionately to how well it sold when it was new.
There's not a lot of copies out there.
Yeah, it didn't sell well.
No. And
but it's the people who know about it love it.
Yeah. And it's one of the only 2D platformers on the system, and it's wholly unique to its mechanics. So it's destined for a bump in price. I'm just waiting for it to happen. Me and Seth kind of bought our copies simultaneously because we were reminded they existed, and we were like, "Oh crap, go buy it quick before it's
need to get it now."
Yeah.
So those were all just online purchases that I felt I needed to pick up. At the local, I grabbed Okami for the Wii. This is the only. I think I have it digitally on a few things, but I didn't have a good physical copy of Okami. So I figured I'd grab the one for the Wii. It's pretty cheap and probably one of the better ways to play it with the Wiimote and stuff.
It's a good version.
I also grabbed Fable 2 and 3, which I had a long time ago and have no idea where they went. So these are repurchases for me.
So now they're pennies. So
now you can get both of them for less than $10 together. But yeah, picked those two up, and then I found Banjo-Kazooie for the N64 at a flea market, and found a good deal on it. I've been seeing that game's everywhere. There's copies of it all over the place, but it's all locally. All the prices have been like outrageous. People are on like $50-$60 for it. I was like, this game is not a $50-$60 game. So I've been waiting and waiting. I finally found like a good deal on a copy. The second game is harder to get, and I, bought it from the RetroLogic store for half that price.
Yeah, back that's probably a year ago or so now.
Yeah, it's been a while ago now.
Yeah, and I think you got the guide with it too?
Yeah, I bought the guide from you too, like the one you had. So yeah, now that completes my Banjo-Kazooie game collection. I have all of them now.
Nice. Nuts and bolts.
And yeah, I've got those.
Banjo Pilot.
I also have I've got Pilot too, but I also have the Rare Replay. I have them all on Xbox One as well.
Do you have the other Game Boy Advance game that I can't remember?
Grunty's Revenge.
That's the one.
Yeah, I've got Grunty's. I just talked about that a little bit ago because I just bought it.
Then you have them all. Then that's all of them.
I do. And then really, as far as I've played, I haven't had a whole lot of time still, but I've put some hours into Metroid Dread. I've not backed out of it, so I have no idea how many hours I've put in. I haven't reloaded it. It's just been in a constant suspension every time I quit playing.
What's the last thing you did?
I was telling Sam, I think I just made it to the 6th area.
Okay. Don't say too much. But
yeah, no, I didn't want to say anything. That's just kind of. It's not. I don't think it's a spoiler that there are 6 areas in the game. But if you've been that far in the game, you'll know what kind of progress that is. I haven't been collecting a whole lot either. I've been kind of just picking up the things that I can get at the time that they're available. I haven't really gone back and traversed a whole lot unless I've had to go back. Like if the game was leading me back to an area, then I might step, a few rooms over to grab a missile, extra missiles or whatever. But I will probably be in the same boat as Sam with the low percentage of items collected by the time I get done, but not near as little amount of time put in. I'll probably be sitting around like the 10 or 12 hour mark. I've been really soaking it in.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll just to kind of bounce off what you're saying, because I'm going to talk about what I bought, but just to talk about Dread for a second. I think I'm about where you're at, John, if not like a little earlier. Like you're probably a little further than I am, but yeah, I like don't want it to end, so I'm like kind of prolonging my time.
Yeah,
like I know it's a short game,
enjoying it,
but like, man, it's so good. It just plays like butter, and like Samus has never felt better to play. Like in a 2D form for sure, and I'm kind of like you. I've been a little bit more explory and searchy with the items, mostly because I want to prolong the experience. But if there's something I see that I can't get yet, I always put a marker. as much as I can, because you only have 6 markers. And that's really helped because it'll like remind me when I get a power up to like go check those areas and see if that's the way to get the item or not. But
well, I mean, the nice thing is if you find the map room, like it'll tell you what the things you haven't got yet.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah.
And you got to be careful because apparently that game breaking bug is tied to putting markers on your map.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Yeah, they talked about it on the Nintendo Dads, I think.
No, I didn't know that. Okay.
It's not like I guess the game doesn't break until like very late in the game. So you have time to remove
All right,
them.
I'm not gonna use markers anymore.
Yeah, they said something about using markers and opening a door or something like that. It triggers it. But I haven't used any. Like I used the tutorial marker that they ask you to put down. And
Dang.
after that,
okay, I'm gonna have to look that up after the show because I do not want to do that. Golly, man! Like I've been using the markers so much too.
If it's going to take you as long as it probably takes me to go through the game, they'll probably already have the fix up by the time I get there. So
Nintendo's preparing an update to remove the issue. Okay, good. Jeez, man. Whew, you scared me.
Late October.
Because I've been using them so much. Yeah, so love Dread. I think I'm 4 hours, something like that. So what I picked up this week, so I talked last week about getting a really good deal on a disc-only copy of Billy Hatcher, which goes for $45, and I won an auction for $25. And it comes in the mail, and it's got cover art and a GameCube case. No manual. So, like, now it's a $60 copy of Billy Hatcher. And, like, none of it's in great shape. The disc works, but it's been resurfaced, which scares me a little bit always, but it works. So I'm not, I'm glad of that. But honestly, that was a shocker when I got that for the price I got for it. So that was a really good eBay snag. I'm really happy about.
I mean, as long as you're not a 7-year-old kid rubbing your discs on carpet and stuff.
Sandpaper.
You'd probably be all right. Like, it always amazes me some of the condition that these discs are in. I'm like, what were you doing to this thing?
Yeah. You just left it on the floor and let kids slide around on it.
Stepped on it and walked on it. And, resurfacing shouldn't be that bad on
especially,
it. As long as it's only been done once.
Like every disc comes with a case. Just put it back.
Yeah, that's what baffles me. Like, I don't know. It's bad.
The big thing last week was I pulled the trigger on a pretty beefy collection of Earthworm Jim action figures from the early 2000s, late 90s. So I have been looking at them, like I've been looking at individual figures, and most of them are pretty cheap. Like really the only one that breaks the $40 mark is Jim, the original Jim himself. But everything else is like 15, 10, sometimes 20 if it like comes with every accessory. But my purpose for getting the figures is to display them. So I don't want them complete in box. I want them opened with a good number of the accessories, right? Like I want all the main characters in good condition. That's like all I really care about. And I found this lot, and it was five or six characters, including original Jim, which is a tough character to get for cheap. Princess What's-Her-Name, Psychro, Bob and the Henchmen, another like underwater style Jim, which I didn't know existed. And I think a rat or something. I'm not really, I'll have to look at it again. And then it comes with like a bunch of accessories. And then I went on Mercari and I grabbed another listing, which was just accessories. And I talked the lady down from 30 to 20, it was a lot of accessories. Like, I think it was like a dozen or so different accessories, including, Peter Puppy, just the little puppy, not the big monster. And so I ended up getting that accessory kit for 20, which I feel good about because the accessories can be tough to find. And the lot of figures started at 125. And so I was like, okay, well, let me watch this item and we'll see if I decide to get it. Because 125 for, I could probably buy those figures individually for less than that. Well, the dude sends me an offer for 80. And I immediately bite. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I'm going to spend the money on this. I'm going to do it. And I'm really excited about it. I have the box, but I'm going to do an unboxing video for Patreon of all the figures. Yeah, I'm really hype about it. That was such a cool find. I used to have these figures, and I never thought I'd see them again because they're such a niche thing, right? Earthworm Jim himself wasn't like the most popular character in the world. So figures for him must have been, like, who cares? But it's just exciting to be able to snag those again.
It's like finding those Primal Rage figures at a yard sale.
Yeah, dude. Oh
Randomly.
my gosh. That was a crazy find. And we had we were just talking about them too, and then you found them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, I wish mine had more. They didn't have any accessories, so they were just the figures.
Yeah.
But they're cool enough. I mean, they're dinosaurs.
Yeah, and I mean, who needs, like, they're just cool to see. So that's my thing with figures is that, like, you have your wall of Amiibo complete in box, which looks really cool. But I want to put mine on a shelf and, like, show them off out of their packaging, like, standing up in action poses and stuff.
I've got some that are out.
There you go. There's Ridley.
Yeah, got some extra ones. I've got Zero Suit Samus and
and actually, Samus. I just got the reissued Dark Samus.
Yeah, I bought one too
from
to
Best
open.
Buy. So my Metroid Amiibo collection is looking pretty good. Still need to get the Metroid Returns Amiibo, which I have all but given up on because they're like $200. It's ridiculous. I want the squishy one, dang it. And I also got Original Fable for Xbox with the bonus DVD. I don't know what's on the DVD, but it looked cool. So it was at the local, so we got it. And that is all the bots and plaids icebreakers for this week. Let's play some Prices Retro. If this is your first time playing Prices Retro, this is how we play. I'm going to list off 4 or 5 games, and you're going to guess how much the games are worth in total, dollars and cents. And whoever of everybody guessing, whoever is the closest to guessing the actual price of the lot, wins. Everyone has a list, and everyone guesses, and then there's the ghost, who always guesses 300. Now we have 2 guest lists this week, and to save my voice, I'm going to have Sam go first.
All right. I have a list of a whole 5 games this week. They are all loose condition, and that is in keeping with the theme because these are all games with playable characters whose heads come loose. So I have Decap Attack for the Genesis, which I just played. Dynamite Heady for the Game Gear. The Game Gear, not the Genesis version. Also loose. Deadhead Fred for the PSP. Battle Monsters.
I've never heard of
for
that.
The Sega Saturn.
Saddle Monsters?
Battle Monsters.
Battle Monsters. Okay, I was
Battle
gonna
Monsters,
say.
yes.
The equestrian battle game.
Kind of like Darkstalkers, but not as cool as Darkstalkers because Darkstalkers is very cool. That's not a dig on it. I just like Darkstalkers. But it is a fighting game that features a bunch of different like stock monsters. One of which is Headless Harn, who's like a headless horseman type guy.
Wow.
And Clay Fighter 2 Judgment Clay.
Yes.
Man,
for the
I need
Super
to,
Nintendo.
I gotta get that. I gotta get all the Clay Fighters next. That's my next.
So all of those are loose once again.
Goodness. Okay. All right. I've got 115 for you.
115.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say 165.
165. So the total value is $71.62.
Jeez.
Yeah, boy. Loose, John.
None of these are
loose.
too pricey.
Loosey
None of these are
goosey.
too pricey.
I thought Judgment Clay was up there.
Decap Attack is $16.50. Dynamite Heady is $9.97.
Dang.
Deadhead Fred is $10.68. Battle Monsters is $19.47, and Clay Fighter 2 is $15.
Yeah, poop.
Well, I better grab all
what
those
was the
clay
sense?
fighters before they jump up.
What was your total again?
The
71?
N64 Sculptor's Cut is like super pricey, I think.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
not.
it's bad.
That's like $1,000 game now. I've given up on that. But I do want.
I don't think base Clay Fighter 63
No.
3 1/3 is too
that one's like
much.
30, 40 maybe.
Yeah.
Say what was your total again?
$71.62.
So say, you sure it's not 170? No.
Nope.
All right, John, your turn.
Okay. The first game on my list is Frantic Flea for the Super Nintendo Complete. The second game on my list is the Ren and Stimpy Show Buckaroos for the Super Nintendo Complete. Third game is Rocco's Modern Life for the Super Nintendo Complete. And the last game is Aw Real Monsters for the SNES Complete. Super
Nice.
Nintendo.
Nice little selection there. It's kind of a tough list here. Sam, you're going to go first.
Okay. 275. I'm going to just go under the ghost.
Okay. Never go under the ghost. 225 is my guess.
All right. The total of my lot is $762.92.
Why, John?
Gosh.
So
Why?
it's funny because how my list came about was we had somebody in the Discord mention Frantic Flea. I can't remember who it was now. They were talking about Frantic Flea, and I have a complete in box copy of this game. And just if you look at the artwork, it reminds me of an old Nickelodeon cartoon.
Yeah, it really
It's
does.
not. It's not at all. But I figured I would just go off of that because I played all these Nickelodeon games when I was a kid on the Super Nintendo.
All right, okay. What's worth $700? Come on. Burying the lead
Frantic
here.
Flea for the Super Nintendo is $31.23 complete. The Ren and Stimpy Show Buckaroos for the Super Nintendo Complete is $576.70.
Why?
I figured when you said that, I figured it was Ren and Stimpy.
What?
Rocco's Modern Life is only $110 complete, and All Real Monsters is $44.99 complete.
Hold on. Ren and Stimpy, what?
Ren and Stimpy Buckaroos.
Show Buckaroos. Why is that so expensive?
This is a really
I thought
early
about guessing high.
SNES
based on
game.
that.
Because you could tell because it was dual NES and SNES releases.
Oh.
And this is an occasion where the Super Nintendo game is actually more rare than the NES game.
Yeah, the NES game's only $25.
Yeah, but complete it's still $200 something dollars.
Yeah,
but
the Super Nintendo game loose is $141.
yeah.
Lordy. What in the world? Dude, that was a good one, man. Never even heard of it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The Ghost did not win that.
Well, technically he did because we both guessed less than the ghost.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Ghost did win.
Well,
that
the
one.
Ghost, yeah, but I mean, yeah, no, he's going to get blown out for the total.
Thanks
show,
to
though,
Sam,
probably.
he might. Well, I don't know. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see how it shakes out. All right, my list. My list is all Animal Crossing games. So, Animal Crossing New Leaf for the 3DS, complete in box. Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival for the Wii U, complete in box with the Amiibo. Animal Crossing Wild World for the Nintendo DS, complete in box. 20. Oops. Saying numbers.
Thanks for
Well, you probably could have guessed that one. Animal Crossing City Folk Wii, complete in box. Animal Crossing for the GameCube, complete in box.
So is that one for the Wii complete with Wii Speak or no?
I don't know. The Wii Speak is worth 99 cents, so it's not going to throw you off too much.
Oh, man.
Might be a deciding factor, though.
Let's say no. Based on this price, let's say no.
All right. I'm going to say $140.
Okay.
I'm going to say 120.
All right. Sam's got this one at $108.81. These were all way lower than I thought they were going to be.
I thought they must have went down some. I thought that.
Well, like New Leaf, I think everybody with a 3DS had it. So
yeah, there's a billion copies of that out there. But even City Folk went down quite a bit. It was hovering around 30 or 40 recently.
There just doesn't seem to be collector interest in Wii games, period.
Yeah, right now, that's kind of the generation that's low. 360, PS3, and Wii, depending on the Wii game. So New Leaf is $14.49. Amiibo Festival is $10.11. Wild World is $21.25. City Folk is $17.96. And GameCube is $45, which I thought that'd be higher, but there it is.
I thought it was higher too.
Yeah. All right, we've got a couple guest lists here. We're going to start with the ambassador in our Discord, newish member of the Discord. Here we go. All right, he's got two lists for us actually. So we're going to do both of them because that's how we do it here at Retro Logic. So first game is Gex for the 3DO, complete. Oh, 3DO games, man. I'm doing both guessing and reading. Second game is Way of the Warrior for the 3DO, complete. Man, I don't even... Third game is Daedalus Encounter for the 3DO, complete. Good luck. The fourth game is Super Street Fighter Turbo for the 3DO, complete. We've got... Okay, that's it. That's it. Wow. Okay. Any guesses?
We should all know this since we all had a 3DO, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most popular system ever. I'm going to guess 440.
I was thinking like right around $400, so we'll say that.
Sam, what you got?
I'm just hoping that this will somehow make up for how low ball I was on John's lot, and I'm just going to say 600. I have no idea.
Yeah, this one's all kind of
3DO is...
It can be. Okay, total is $197.90. Wow. Wowie, wow. Okay, first game, Gex for the 3DO is $35.48. Way of the Warrior for the 3DO is $69.16. Daedalus Encounter, no idea what that is, $32. And then Street Fighter is $60.47. The theme is games on the 3DO which are rare and pretty cheap. Yeah, these are pretty cheap for the 3DO, so he got us there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Second list. You guys ready for Ambassador's second list? You ready, John?
Go for it. Yep.
Also, I think I won that round. Oh, no, the Ghost did. Shoot. Because I was at 400.
The Ghost and I... Well, the Ghost won, but out of us, I was the closest.
Yeah. So, game one, Link, the Faces of Evil for the CDI. Lord, I knew somebody was going to Throw that crap at us at some point. Should know the what?
I think I've had these games on the list before, like way early in the show.
Maybe, yeah, but I'm sure the prices are different now.
Oh yeah, well, I don't even remember what they were. So it's like,
Zelda's Adventure for the CDI complete. Zelda: The Wand of Gamelon for the CDI complete. Can't believe these even exist. And Hotel Mario for the CDI complete. All right, guys, give me your numbers. I'm not going first this time. Boo doo 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 doo. Doo 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 doo.
I have no idea. 200.
It's
200?
Say $750.
Okay, we are all over the map on this one. Sam says 200. John says 750, and I say $2,000. Mark my words, $2,000 for these games. Ready? Total is $1,875. I knew it. I freaking knew it. I knew
Good
what one of
gosh.
these games was worth. I knew what one of them was worth, and I said, no, all of these Nintendo CDI games are ridiculous. Yes. That is 100% victory for me for this game. Oh my gosh. All right. Link the Faces of Evil for the CDI is $359.02. Zelda's Adventure is $1028.29. Zelda's Adventure is $1,000 game, guys. Oh my gosh. Wand of Gamelon is $307.41. And Hotel Mario is $235. I just put $500 on each game. I was like, that's it. That's the one.
I can't believe well, I guess I haven't ever really priced Zelda's Adventure. I knew the other ones were like around $300, $200. I guess
I don't know. I think of CDI games like PC games, and those are usually worthless.
Well, they were for a long time. Nobody cared about these games.
Shot up.
And then one day it was just like, oh, we need to collect everything Zelda. Everybody buy these games, and now they're impossible to find. So you can name your price on selling these games. And then the ambassador's theme for this list is why Nintendo has trust issues. So good. Thank you, Ambassador, for giving us this list. Oh, man.
All because of late game shenanigans. I think Dan stole victory from us.
Yes. Not stole. I earned it.
I don't think I had a victory to steal this time.
We have Flightsy's final list for his 3-parter, guys. His last list.
Oh, okay.
We got one more to go. Everybody good?
Yep.
All right, here we go. The theme is In the Beginning, 3 of 3. Game 1 is Rayman Legends for the Wii U, complete in box. Rayman Legends for the Wii U, complete in box. Okay. We've got Epic Mickey 2, The Power of 2 for the Wii U. Epic Mickey 2. We've got Tetris for the Game Boy, loose. Man, I was thinking like maybe they're all the second version of something, but then there's Tetris on the Game Boy. What?
Or ports.
Maybe they're ports.
No. Well, I mean,
Rabid.
Now with Tetris Game Boy.
Rabbids Land for the Wii U. I don't know. Probably not very expensive. Overcooked All You Can Eat for the Switch. I think these are all sequels. Like Tetris wasn't originally on the Game Boy. It was originally like a PC game, right?
Oh, it was on the NES before it was on the Game Boy, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Maybe these are all sequels.
Yeah, the NES version came first.
That's what I was
I
thinking.
think there was an arcade version as well.
Yes, there was. I've played it.
All right. My number is 70 for this.
I'm going to say 100.
Oh, I was going to say 100. Fine. 95.
He's got you there. And I'm going to guess that the theme is like these have all been the second version of these
the
games
first
or
list
something,
had
right?
none of these
because
games
this
on
is
it.
because this is the second season, so this is all the. So you want me to read off all the games so you guys can guess a theme, or do you want to just see the?
Why don't you give us the total of this one first, and then we'll go through
All right,
all of
okay.
the breakdown.
The total is 7409. So, not that I needed the win, but there we go.
Oh, yeah, no, you already had it.
Rayman Legends is 1155. Epic Mickey 2 is 603. Tetris is 951. Rabbids Land is 1415. Overcooked is 3285 with a total of 7409 again. Here are his last two lists before I read the theme, if you guys want to try to guess. Game 1 was Pikmin. Game 2 was Rhythm Heaven. Game 3 was Indiana Jones for the Digi, whatever. Game 4 was Cooking Mama. Game 5 is Epic Mickey. And then for his second list was Game 1 is I Spy Spooky Mansion. Game 2 is Sushi Go Round. And then his third list was Rayman Legends, Epic Mickey 2, Tetris, Rabbids Land, and Overcooked All You Can Eat. So it's like there's some cooking games. There's some Mickey Mouse games, some sequels, some non-sequels. I don't know. I thought it was like the second versions of things, but Pikmin is on there now, so I'm not sure. Any ideas?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm lost.
All right. Let's hear it, Flightsy. He says, so it's finally time to hear the theme explanation. I hope you've been enjoying the suspense. However, the theme doesn't have a singular explanation behind it. Well, there you go. It has been 3 explanations, just like how there are 3 lists. The first explanation is that these lists are for the beginning of Season 2 of Retro Logic. Oh, okay. So the first list is for the beginning. Pikmin 1, the first Rhythm Heaven, Indiana Jones, Cooking Mama, yeah. The second explanation is that these are all games that I own now. Oh, he's pretty young. He's just 18. So this is the beginning of his collection. That's interesting. This is why Tetris is loose. I technically don't have a complete box copy of Tetris for the Game Boy, although I do have a plastic case from customgamecases.com, which I honestly prefer over the original box. For Indiana Jones, I did new because Digi, not short for digital, educational console from my childhood games, because we were questioning what Digi was, aren't on price charting. So I actually used the price I could find on Amazon. As for the third explanation, which $2 Heroes guessed, well, let's just say you might want to look at the beginning letter of each game. Rayman Legends, Epic Mickey, Tetris, Rabbids, Overcooked. He spelled out retro for us.
He did. I see that.
There you go.
Flightsy. Outdoing yourself at every list, my friend. Thank you for that. Wow, guys. Okay, John. Who won?
So Dan had a total of $952.49. I had a total of $14.77 and 96 cents. And Sam, I don't know. I'd have to look back at the archive, but you might have broke the record. $25.97 and 50 cents.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Record breaker.
Right here.
I'm not sure though, because didn't we have like a brand new copy, a graded copy of Super Mario or something? That had crazy. It was like $5,000.
I don't know. Yeah, and Flights is still working on the database. Which everyone, if you're in the Discord, go to the the Price is Retro channel and check out the database. There's tons of info in there, and Flights has
we
been
have to
working.
be careful. Careful what we say now. I can't just say, "Oh man, Sam, I think you beat Nick's record."
Even if he didn't beat it, it is an impressive loss.
Yes.
So.
Oh, and the Ghost was at a difference of 1289.96. So the Ghost actually beat Sam and I. It only needed one more round, and it would have beat you, I think.
Man, that Ghost is closer than I think he gets.
He does have a little bit
when I did that, that's one of the only times I won.
Awesome.
Well, how his score's calculated, he has a little bit of advantage over us because his goes by total. Like I basically just multiply the amount of lists that we have in the game by 300, and then his gets taken away from the total amount of everything.
Oh yeah, I mean that makes sense.
So yeah. So we actually, it's a lot harder for us, and his just easily accumulates. The more lists, the better off for him.
Well, he is a ghost, so you got to give him all the advantages you can.
Oh yeah.
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're doing our show topic for this week, which is game development transitions from 2D to 3D. So stick around. Welcome back. So this week for our show topic, we are talking about game development transition from 2D to 3D between the years of 95 and 2000. So this was what some people might call like a rocky period for everyone in regards to game development, because everybody was kind of getting their bearings with like what 3D gaming was going to look like, and like we all had these grandiose dreams, like, you know, like we have today, where everything's like open and you're running around in 3D, and you know, we had like kind of glimpses of what things would look like with Super Nintendo Super FX chip and the 32X, but those were all pretty not unimpressive, but you know, we knew that something better was coming, you know. So my first question for you guys is what do you think the first polygonal game you played was? And do you remember did it blow your mind, or were you like, this is boring, I want to go back to 2D Mario?
I mean, probably for me it would have been Mario 64 if I really had to put a nail in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like fully 3D polygonal artwork and everything.
Yeah. Do you remember what your reaction to that was?
That was crazy. Like I thought it was. I mean, when you look at it now, it looks, you know, it's okay. But in the 1996, I was like realistic. I was like, this is like a movie.
Yeah,
Mario's like it's like playing a cartoon. Especially when you had stuff coming out like you remember the show Reboot, like one of the first computer animated cartoons. You had stuff like that coming out, and you were like,
that's aged about as well as the N64.
Exactly, yeah. But I mean, at the time, it was like, this is awesome. And games are like kind of catching up to this technology that's being used in movies. And
I mean, Toy Story had been out for a year when the N64 came out.
Yeah.
So
Toy Story game did not fare as well as the movie.
No. Although there is an N64 Toy Story game. And actually, I remember having this dumb conversation with my brother, because I was 9 at the time, or 10, I guess, when the N64 came out. And I was like, oh, Now that there's 3D gaming, they can put Toy Story on the N64. It's going to be so easy because it's all just in 3D. Like, my understanding of it was so elementary that I thought that they could just like copy and paste Toy Story onto an N64 and make a game. Like, yeah, like that's so easy. Why don't they just do that? When obviously that's not the case, and we didn't get a Toy Story game for that system until much later. But you're right. Like, we kind of had a glimpse of what 3D could be through movies and TV and stuff like that. So we were all kind of chomping at the bit for something that looked like that. But Sam, what about you? What do you think your first 3D gaming experience was?
Oh, I actually can concrete answer this. It would be Stunt Race FX. Because I know we had that on the Super Nintendo before we had an N64.
Yeah.
And we did not have Star Fox. So
what was your reaction?
That's the only other one came to. Honestly, I didn't care much for it. I really still don't care much for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely preferred Super Mario Kart.
I think Stunt Race FX.
I remember playing it a decent amount, though. Like, I still had fun with it, but it was not my favorite game.
We rented it because it looked great on the box, you know? And it even looked good in the game, you know? Like, the representation of the car and the truck with the eyeballs, like, cool. Like, cartoon character trucks and cars, totally get it. Looks awesome. But it plays like trash. It just doesn't. Yeah, the frame rate's so bad. And yeah, I totally get that. So when did you guys get? So I'm with John, where like I may have played Stunt Race FX and Star Fox before before Mario 64, but those offerings were very limited. And like I really enjoyed Star Fox for the Super Nintendo, like I genuinely did. But I certainly didn't think that this was what 3D gaming was going to be like.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of knew that something better was around the corner, even if we couldn't see it yet. And Mario 64, to me, kind of going back to the Toy Story thing, was sort of like the realization that what we were seeing in movies could be playable as a video game. And Mario 64 was, to date, the very best representation of that. And the PlayStation had been out for a year already, like pretty much exactly a year when the N64 came out. And there was nothing like it on the PS1. Not even close.
No, when did Spyro and stuff come out?
I can look it up.
I mean, Spyro was a pretty successful 3D platforming game for the PlayStation.
I mean, Crash was still kind of like...
Yeah, Crash
it's very linear.
Yeah, to me, Crash just still feels like a 2D
Crash game. Always wanted to do that run towards the camera thing, and that is the dumbest thing you can do in a platformer. I'm sorry.
Spyro.
Sorry for people who like Crash. I hate when any game does that.
Spyro is 1998.
Yep.
You know?
That's what I was thinking. It took quite a bit longer for PlayStation to produce a good, like, solid 3D platformer.
My other question was Gex, which was pretty early.
Yeah.
And so Gex was on 3DO and PlayStation in 95. But I think that was the side-scrolling one.
Possible.
Because it launched as a side-scrolling platformer and then later became a 3D platformer. Yeah. That's the 2D side-scrolling one.
Something to think about, though, is like how different the 3D market would have been if PlayStation would have stayed with Nintendo. You know, we probably would have seen some different 3D games.
Yeah,
if that would have stayed course.
That's a whole other podcast. Yeah.
Because I mean, that's right in the mix of this whole deal. You know, it was going to be started off as something that was going to
Yeah.
be for the Super Nintendo, kind of like a disc attachment like everyone else was doing, and then kind of became its own thing, and then ended up not being a thing.
So crazy. And that honestly gave Sony a time advantage. Nintendo is still formulating their plans for 3D while Sony was trying to partner with them, and they went forward with the PlayStation, and Nintendo's like, I guess we're doing our own thing then, and had an extra year to flush that out.
Makes me, I've never looked into it, but I wonder how long the development time was for Mario 64. It couldn't have been very long.
Let's do it.
Because I mean, like we mentioned, with the splitting of PlayStation's development from Nintendo and moving on to being solely Sony, that production
began. Okay, so pre-production began in 93, concept, but actual production didn't start until 94. So 3 years total.
But again, pre-production could have even been for the PlayStation.
Yeah.
You never know. That's concept
maybe.
At that point.
I mean, obviously they were working on polygonal stuff back then and
stuff could have ran on the PlayStation that was, being developed for Nintendo.
They had to make a lot of decisions about how 3D gaming was going to work functionally from the controller to the camera, Yep. And PlayStation kept the D-pad.
At first, yeah.
Even though, and I mean, you could argue too that even when they did add the analog sticks, they weren't great.
The original DualShock is not amazing.
Yeah. I know some people really love the original DualShock. I just don't. And I think that the controller itself wasn't the problem. I think that there wasn't really a game out there that implemented it as well as it should have or could have been.
It's like when you play Mario 64 on Switch now.
Yeah, exactly.
C buttons mapped to an analog stick.
That game really could have desperately used some remastering to really show well on the Switch. So Nintendo, I think PlayStation was still taking some lessons learned from 2D gaming and trying to shoehorn them into 3D gaming, where Nintendo was really sort of reinventing the wheel with what they did. They knew that running around a 3D space with a D-pad was never going to be optimal. If they wanted Mario to feel like Mario, which is what, like a tactile, frenetic, quick, it was going to have to be something different. And so when did the 3D controller for the Sega Saturn come out? That came out with Nights into Dreams,
Yeah, and that was a little bit later, but and that's another thing, Saturn being a player in that market as well, didn't have near as many 3D games, but they were definitely more like arcade quality, so
and even Saturn launching with the D-pad control. Let's see if I can find a good source.
Well, the N64 controller famously still had the D-pad, which a lot of people are confused by and don't see a use for. If you play Mischief Makers, you use the D-pad.
Yeah,
but
there's some games you use the D-pad on for.
Yeah, the point being, a lot of that design was as basically making the controller a 2-in-1, 3D and 2D game controller. They just wound up not using the D-pad as much as they might have thought they would.
Yeah.
Well, it was a safety net. Like, you gotta imagine Nintendo's didn't, with the controller design how it was them saying that they weren't completely comfortable going all in on 3D games, and that they expected to possibly have to revert back to a D-pad if it didn't work out with their games.
Maybe. I don't know. It would have been so weird Now, I mean, maybe you're right. I mean, we're looking back on it now and seeing like, oh no, like 3D gaming was always going to be the future. But back then, I guess they didn't know.
Yeah,
3D gaming could have
brand new market.
Well, the other thing being though, like unlike modern controllers where you have that D-pad and it's very close to the sticks that you can slide your thumb over and hit a single direction to say switch weapons. On the N64, that's harder to do.
Impossible.
Because it's so far from the control stick. They weren't thinking about that.
So the 3D control pad actually launched in the US August of 96, so before the N64.
Yep.
Now I'm trying to see if it launched with Knights or if it was just, for 3D gaming that in general.
Kind of go off what Sam said. I think a lot of how we got the design of more modern controllers is due to first-person shooters, kind of like how you were saying.
Yeah, big time.
Make them more accessible.
I would be curious how the timeline fits in with what was going on in PC gaming at the time as well. That often gets kind of pushed into its own space. But
and
I'm sure there were at the very least some 3D flight combat games that were in use at that time.
And we can't talk
something
about
like X-Wing.
You can't talk about 3D gaming without talking about Doom also.
Yeah, Doom as well.
Which, I mean, and man, it's so crazy because PC gaming, now I don't even pretend to know a thing about the history of PC gaming, but it's really kind of on its own timeline. It's always like 1 or 2 steps ahead of console gaming, but it's so varied,
for what it's worth, Doom came out in December of 93.
Yeah, exactly. It was basically an entire generation before consoles caught up.
Yeah, and like Space Harrier would have been considered 3D at the time as well.
Yeah. Kind of like faux 3D. And Super Nintendo had the Mode 7 thing going on. But when I think of like 3D gaming, it really is like the Mario 64, where it's like I'm in an area and I can choose where I go. And that perpetuates now everything we play in with polygons almost, Well, and even something simple like Monkey Ball that can be a 2D game. It is on the Game Boy Advance.
About your top-down games, though, like Zelda. I mean, that's structured much a similar way. It's just not polygons. It's largely a presentation thing.
Right. I'm specifically talking about polygons.
It's a point of view is all it is.
Yeah, it's being able to walk around, change your perspective freely, and kind of letting perspective be part of the game. You know what I mean?
Top-down view games were a way for them to create a 3D like feeling without having to.
I mean, yes and no. I would say not the feeling. It allows you the same kind of space to design levels and puzzles. But I think it does come down to the feeling. It is about that perspective, and it's actually why I don't like a lot of 3D games. Specifically, I dislike first-person perspective because you're always fighting your field of view. It's always not you. There's always things you can't see. You're always trying to see the things that you're not seeing.
I understand that
games because you have a large field of view, and you're able to see what's there. And you're able to make decisions based on what you see. And in specifically first-person games especially, but any, behind the back, third-person, 3D action game, what have you, you're always fighting the camera to see what's there that you're not seeing.
So sometimes, Sam, and this has to be done to great effect and well, that is part of the game. Like
it is. I'm just saying that's the part I don't like.
Right. Is the limitation of the camera. Like, I think of especially survival horror use that as something, you know what I mean? Like you can't look in 2 directions at once. So you're constantly
like tank controls.
Yeah. But like survival horror used first person perspective to great effect. So like when the camera is the game, I disagree with you, but I totally see what you're saying about like Nintendo had to basically create an entire mechanic for all of their games on the N64 and 4 extra buttons to be able to solve that problem of like, well, when you can choose what you see, your perspective, how do you choose that now? And what does that mean for the player? Like, do we use that? Do we make the game
It also
easier?
means, if they can move the camera anywhere, that something has to be there for them to look at too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is why even Mario 64 locks the camera at certain points because of the limitations of the system and of what they put there.
Well, and
for you to see.
what's funny is you play Mario Galaxy and the camera's almost entirely fixed.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, they did it so well that you don't even notice most of the time. But that's such a reversal from what like what we were trying to do philosophically as a 3D game. They just totally take that away from you because it's a Wii game and you don't have the controls for it anymore. So I think that's pretty fascinating.
We didn't have another stick.
Yeah. And the pointer was already used for something, so it couldn't be a camera.
Yeah, that would be horrible. Can you imagine having the camera be like the end of the Wiimote?
Now a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there are people who cannot go back to that generation, the Saturn, PS1, N64 generation, because they find it incredibly clunky to try to like GameCube, PS2, Xbox generation is where a lot of people's like, if you go back to play a game, that's kind of where it starts, or you jump back to SNES, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx. So that's my question for you guys next is what's your take on that jump? How easy is it for you to go back to that generation compared to 2D or GameCube, PS2?
I look at the N64 era generation, that jump to like GameCube as the same kind of like going from NES to Super NES. Like it's a pretty substantial jump, but it's not as big as the one in between Super Nintendo and N64. Yeah, like it's big enough to be noticeable. I mean, the GameCube is definitely a lot more powerful than the N64, and it could do a lot more things with 3D renderings and everything and textures. It's really whenever you start seeing textures, like everything on the N64 is like painted on a background and then just stuck on a polygon. Like there's no real textures to it.
I think the difference you're talking about is like, so check it out. There are games, and we talked about one earlier, that are on both the NES and the Super NES. There are games that started development as N64 games that ended up as GameCube games. I would challenge you to find one game that had that similarity. Maybe Star Fox. Like that's the only example I can think of where it's like this was a Super Nintendo game, but we canned it and we made Star Fox 64 instead. What else is there between Super Nintendo and N64? It was such a monumentous leap from a fundamental, like the fundamentals of gaming changed. So you can't take a Super Nintendo game and put it on the N64 because now it's a totally different space. Mischief makers. I don't know.
Well, it makes me wonder, like, at what point Nintendo knew what they had on their hands, with developing for the N64.
Right.
Because at some point they were like, this is it, I don't know if it was, developing Mario or Wave Race or Pilot Wings, but at some point they were all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true for Nintendo. I think less so for PlayStation.
Exactly.
PlayStation, you did see, and probably just because they kind of had all the third parties jump to them, you did see 2D games on PlayStation. For example, like Mega Man X4 is generally the same type of game as Mega Man X3 on Super Nintendo. And Mega Man X4 is on the PlayStation. It's still a 2D action platformer. They didn't try 3D until much later with X7, and you would think it was the first 3D game ever because they made so many mistakes. But
and that was still that was a 2.5D, wasn't it?
It had fully 3D sections.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It had 2D sections and it had 3D sections.
And also with Sony, I think they had a little bit easier time with going to 3D because they kind of originated in that, started out in that generation where they're already developing those things off the get-go.
Yeah,
we
didn't see Mega Man Legends, just to jump off that, until 97.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like Nintendo had, generations of 2D game development in their pocket, things that they learned doing that. And some of that stuff was probably hard to let go going
They kind of had to rewrite the book.
Yeah, anyone else that's designed something for so long, it's probably hard to kind of leave those habits behind, or, your ideas of how you're going to develop something to move to a 3D space.
But to go back to that thought of a lot of people don't go back to the
I want to know what your thoughts
generation. When I was writing that article for the blog, before they announced N64 coming to NSO, it was even more stark, the difference you would see in terms of, breaking down by platform, the different games that came to Virtual Console on the Wii, the Wii U, the 3DS, and then the variety of different ways that games get re-released on Switch. Since NSO didn't completely replace Virtual Console, we also have, collections and standalone releases and all of that. But I broke it down by platform, and you see a giant dip in just the number of titles coming that are for the N64, that are for the PlayStation, that are for those systems. And, it definitely seems to be the accepted line by, the people releasing games that we don't think people are interested in this. We can sell Super Nintendo games, we can sell NES games, and we can sell remastered, PS3 games, but we're not selling, N64 or PlayStation 1. Nobody wants to buy that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, I don't think that that's 100% true, but you can't really blame them for concluding that, because when Nintendo was actually bringing that stuff to Virtual Console the most, that was the Wii U, and their sales were not there. When Sony was bringing that stuff to PlayStation 3 on their virtual store, the sales were not there. When Sony made the PlayStation Classic, the sales were not there. Now, those all had other problems that caused that issue. But, if you're somebody who's just looking at numbers, trying to figure out what can we do that sells the most things, you will come to the conclusion, after this, there's a cutoff here where people aren't interested in this old stuff. They're interested in the really old stuff, and then the other people want the new stuff and maybe the kind of recent stuff, but we'll have to, make it HD.
That's the beginning of it's the beginning of an era of games. It's kind of like people from our generation trying to go back and play Intellivision or Atari.
Yeah, exactly. It does not happen very often because it's not.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't. I don't know. To me, when you try to go back and play those games, it's almost even hard to, versus an 8-bit game that you're playing on NES looks so much better than the stuff that was coming out on those early consoles.
Yeah.
And to be able to even figure out what to do while playing that game, it would be the same thing as, my children trying to go back and play N64. They'd be like, what is this?
Yeah, that's not untrue.
Not what I'm used to.
And it's funny because part of it is we're used to seeing the NES and SNES aesthetic in indie games all the time. It's super popular. Yep. But the N64 aesthetic isn't something that a lot of, or even
I'm starting to see more of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's trying to come in.
There's a little bit now, and I'm actually here for it. I want it, but that's not. It's kind of hard to pull off elegantly. So I think it's a challenge that hasn't quite been mastered yet. That look and feel. I think you're totally right about that, John. And as much as we can absolutely appreciate and recognize the Atari and the Intellivision, and the Odyssey for launching an entire industry, it's not something I really want to go back and play a whole lot of,
No.
Unless I have like a historical or like an archival reason to, like
There's a handful of 2600 games that I still like to go back and revisit, but they're very few and far between, and they're ones that I played so many times, like I'll never forget how to play them. But
exactly.
There's things like ET, like I don't even know how to play that game.
I would argue, though, that a lot of what keeps me from having interest in, say, the 2600 is that the best games of that era were based on arcade games. And the definitive version of the game is still the arcade version.
That's very true.
So why would I get the 2600 version?
Yeah, that's true.
Say Pac-Man.
Right.
I still do appreciate Pac-Man, even the original arcade version of it. Not just, the bells and whistles and Pac-Man 99 or Pac-Man Fever or whatever.
A lot could be
I just don't feel a need to get the 2600 version.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot could be said for the N64 era of games too. A lot of those games were coming from arcades, and they were very poorly done. When you look at, like, if I'm going to play Gauntlet Legends, I play my N64 version, but I'd much rather play the arcade version. It was way better. Cruising USA, arcade racing games were 20 times better in arcade than they were on the N64 or PlayStation.
So
there's just lots of examples.
I'm just sitting here thinking, Sam, based on what you're saying, so I'm thinking of a game like Yar's Revenge, right? Yar's Revenge, developed by Atari. I don't think Yar's Revenge ever had an arcade cabinet. I think it was exclusive to the Atari.
Yeah, I don't know that it did.
And I'm trying to look it up, so I'm not yet. I'm actually later. If it did, it might have come later. But there were games developed, and that's the thing, right? Like, the games that sold were either made for that platform, like Mario 64, Star Fox 64, whatever, Yar's Revenge, Combat, Pack-In, classic, or arcade ports because people wanted arcades in their homes. Now the landscape's totally different. And even in the N64 days, it was totally different, where arcade games like Cruising USA were pretty close to the arcade game, and were there because they were a recognizable IP. So I don't think you're wrong, but I think that there are exceptions to that rule as well.
Yeah, and some of that's my own ignorance on how many more there are.
So maybe we need to do like a deep dive into some quality Atari 2600 stuff. And I think we are also totally off the rails.
Yeah, we left 3D development.
Yeah, a little bit. But
back.
I mean,
we went to Atari.
We're finding parallels here too between trying to go back to the birth of 3D gaming, and then going back to the birth of gaming as we know it. But we are going to move on to our community couch after a quick break. I'm going to have John take over the community couch because my voice is about to disappear. So we'll see you guys again in just a minute.
Welcome back. We're going to talk some community couch. So first thing on the list here is Retro Rewind. Just want to remind everybody about our October game. Retro Rewind game is Demon's Crest. Play this game. Join us. We'll have a community-led podcast. Stay tuned for a later date.
Depending on community involvement. I actually don't think there's very many people playing this because of Plocktober.
Yeah, I think October took over and Metroidtober took over.
So we'll see. If we get a bunch of people playing Demon's Crest, we'll definitely do a community-led podcast. But if not, we'll skip it and do it next month.
And also just a quick reminder that Plock Talk is Monday, October 25th. I know we've already mentioned it on the show, but just to remind everybody at 9 p.m. CDT. And all right, now we can move on to the actual community stuff. Your guys' questions, everyone's favorite part of the community couch. So Mr. Eric Plunk, as part of the Discord, asks, with it becoming more difficult to purchase digital PS3 and Vita games after October 27th, is there anything you plan on snagging for convenience sake?
I think we were all scared by the first time they were going to close the store. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's still not an official closing of the door, but it's still, they just keep kind of squeezing down that ease of access to where you have to go to a certain place to buy these, or have to purchase a certain amount of currency or whatever to get in there. But all those things just mean that we're getting closer to that shutdown, similar to what the Wii did. Like, hey, we're only going to accept the eShop cards after this.
Yeah.
After this point. And then I don't even think it was like 6 months later, they're like, we're announcing the close of the eShop. This place is done. So,
but I'm saying, like, I bought everything that I wanted off that store back when they closed it the first time. So I'm good, I think.
I don't think I could.
I still don't have a PS3 or a Vita, so at this point, I'm probably never going to get one, because the main reason to get one was that online store as a much more economic way to get some of those rarer PS1 and 2 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's too many things on there that I want. I probably will not be able to purchase all of them, nor will I need to, because I would never have the time to play them all before my PlayStation 3 just died.
Yeah. They're all RPGs.
From time. Yeah, I would never be able to go back. I plan on picking up a few things. I'm going to have to go back and prioritize my list. I made a wish list whenever it was still on the website. I had a wish list of like 47 games or something like that on there. So I'm going to have to like prioritize through some of that.
Yeah, I think I spent like $130 getting PS1, PS2 games.
I think I had like over $500 in my cart. I can't remember how much it was. Something stupid. But yeah, no, it's definitely the looming end of digital PS3 stuff here shortly. So if you haven't picked up what you want, I would definitely consider at least going through the list and pick up some of those classics.
There's so many very, very expensive PS1 games that you can get for like $5. So if you have a PS3, it's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, and also remember that you don't have to have a Vita. Your PSP, if you still have one of those, can also download PS1 classic games to be played on as far as handhelds go. Just throwing that out there.
Cool.
Next question. The ambassador gives us this question. He says, have you ever bought a digital game on a whim and regretted it immediately? He says, I bought Skee Ball and Party Arcade, and they're both disappointments.
Yeah, I can't imagine digital Skee Ball being that fun, but I mean, we all played Wii Bowling, so what do I know?
With motion controls, I could see it being kind of fun, but if it's like controller controls, nah.
So when the Wii launched, there was this game called Snake Pass, who, like, the developer's great. They're great guys. They were on All N, the All N podcast recently, and they're awesome. However, Snake Pass is hot garbage, and I will preach that from the mountaintops as long as I live. Like, people are like, well, just get good. Like, no, I think that it's just poorly designed for what it is. It's like a puzzle game where you have to control the physics of a snake which is like and it's like very unforgiving. Very
I thought
unforgiving.
This game was great.
No, dude, it's not.
I 100%ed it all.
And
I got all the collectibles.
Oh gosh, how did you get anywhere in that game?
How much time did you actually spend in it?
A couple hours.
I don't know. After about an hour or so, I had pretty good control of the snake. Like I didn't have the problems.
Spent $20 on that game, and I wish I could get my money back. It. I still want my money back. So that just goes to show you, just not everything's for everyone. I'm glad John loves it. If you loved it, I'm glad you loved it. I could not find it. I could not understand what people saw in this game. Characters were great. Love the snake and the bird all day long. Do not want to be them in a video game.
With this question, I feel like Drew from Dad's After Dark could have like a whole show on this.
That's like his whole life.
Games. Yeah, he just buys cheap games and tries them out. Oh, man.
Sam, what do you think?
I don't, especially not immediately. I mean, I've had games I bought digitally that were minor disappointments, but no, I'm pretty selective about what I buy.
Cool.
I bought a game recently. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it's called Merchant of the Skies. It looked like it was going to be something that kind of reminded me of Pirates on the NES, like where you go from port to port, you buy goods, you sell goods, like a regular merchant game. And just how the controls of the menus and everything are set up, like I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would. And I downed it pretty quick. Like, I think it was cheap though. It was like $5, I think. It was a Drew game.
The only other one I can think of is very recently, Super Mash was on sale. This is the game where like you take two genres of a game and mash them together so you can make like an RPG shmup. But like none of the games are like, there's like a lot of different things you can do, but none of it's very good. So it kind of killed it for me. Like I wish there was, I don't know. I think I liked the premise more than I actually liked the execution.
Opposite example, Gunman Clive on the 3DS eShop was 99 cents and is an awesome game, and everybody should
amazing.
Play it.
Oh, there's a collection on Switch, and I think it's like $5.
Yeah, but if you
that game just always impressed me for the quality it was because it was such a low price.
I was gonna say, if you have a 3DS, buy this game on 3DS because the 3D visuals are amazing.
Oh, cool.
Yes. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. All my stuff is like, disclaimer. I don't buy a whole lot of eShop games that I think, because I get a lot of ones from review codes from the Nintendo dads. I get my fill of bad games, like a lot. So
that's not buying it though. Like you got it for free. You have to play it. Yeah.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like I try to stay away from eShop games. Like I usually get enough bad ones that it turns me off from buying stuff from the shop unless I absolutely know it's something I want.
Right. What we got next?
Okay, so the next question is from Flightsy, and he says, what's something you think the other two hosts would be surprised to learn about you?
Well, while Dan's thinking about it, I have an answer. Go. Although this pertains actually more so to my family, but this has come up recently because we're planning a trip there, actually. And there is a town in Kentucky called Wagersville. It is a real place, and it is named after my family name.
What?
Like, nobody lives there, but it's real. It's out in southeastern Kentucky in, like, Daniel Boone National Forest.
Nobody lives there?
Near Irvin or Stump. If you've ever been to Stump, Kentucky, you're close.
All the time.
Is that anywhere near Possum Grape, Arkansas?
Probably not.
Probably not.
That's interesting. You have a town named after you.
My great-great-grandfather used to own a farm there. that is no longer in the family, but some hilltop wilderness property is still in the family. And we hike up and down the hill once a year as a family.
That's cool.
It's the Wagers hike.
Yep.
I want to do it one year. And I am surprised to learn that about you. Wagers, yeah. I can't think of anything like monumentous that you guys don't know about me. I'm also a pretty open book about everything in my life. But you guys might be surprised to learn that I was a bit of a ladies' man in high school, or middle school and high school. And I'll tell you how that came to be. So I did a lot of community theater in middle school and high school. And so what that means is that I'm hanging out at theater, taking acting classes and, building sets and being in plays and stuff like that. And a lot of the male population in that crowd is either gay or questioning, me being a straight guy surrounded by theater girls. It was pretty easy pickings for me. So I had probably 6 or 7 girlfriends in theater, and not at the same time. But
you said you were a ladies' man.
But
so.
yeah, but I was classy about it. I wasn't going and cheating on anyone. But I think that might be something surprising about me, because I'm not Casanova, as it were. But
You're not a ladies' man no longer.
No, I'm a one man woman these days. But
woman.
That's one. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean.
A one woman man.
So there's a surprising fact about me. What about you, John? Got anything?
Like you, I usually share things if I have anything crazy. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it before, but I am a quarter Native American.
You've told me, but I don't think you've mentioned it on the podcast before.
I don't think I knew that.
And I was born in Oklahoma, really close to a reservation.
To the reservation of your tribe?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Do you ever interact with the tribe?
A little bit here and there. Not as much as I probably should. It's one of those things where, always we have our own language too, but I don't know as much of it as I would like. It'd be kind of interesting to learn more. Yeah.
So I think you're more involved with that than you even let on, or I even knew when you told me that in our private conversation. So that is actually really cool to learn about you.
Yeah, it's different. It's
Yeah.
Growing up, I wish we were more involved with it. We lived further away, so it's kind of hard to be super involved.
Yeah.
You're about 6 hours away from where my family originated. So, but yeah.
Very cool, dude.
All right. So
Flightsy's got another question for us.
Yep. Next question from Flightsy says, considering the recently revealed price for the NSO expansion, do you think the price is justified? And will the new N64 and Genesis games still be considered accessible enough for Retro Rewind?
So first question, what do you think do you think the price is justified?
It's tough.
It's definitely...
So the price, again, for those not in the know, is $50 for an individual account, $80 for a family plan. That's an increase over double from $20 for the base subscription for an individual, or it's $35 for a family, right?
Yeah.
Currently today.
Yeah.
Now this is all optional, right? You don't have to get the expansion pass. You can still pay your $20 or $35 and get Super Nintendo and NES games and play online. But if you want to play Sega Genesis, if you want to play in Super N64 games, then you have to pay the $50 a year or $85 a year for the family plan. So
as far as value of what you get, I think is justified. And I know that Nintendo is getting a lot of hatred now about how they've set the plan up. And I really think they could solve a lot of their problems by offering the games tier separate from the Animal Crossing DLC.
Well, I mean, yeah, that assumes that it would cost substantially less if you removed Animal Crossing, which we don't know if that's the case or not.
If it was half,
I don't even think it's too expensive. It's that it's so much worse a deal than the base plan. I actually think the base plan is a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
If you like NES and SNES games, you're getting over 100 of them now through that plan, and you're getting access to online, which you wouldn't have otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the addition of N64 compared to that is, I don't think, worth over double. And Genesis, I don't assign a whole lot of value to, not because I don't like Genesis games, but because I already have the Genesis Classics collection.
See,
and
that's
if you want to play Genesis, that's what I recommend you do, is you buy that.
If they had done
because that's more games.
If they had done this exact same pricing, and they said N64 and GameCube games, I would have been like, cool. The price is totally worth it. 100%, like no questions asked, because those are two generations of gaming that get really kind of lost in the shuffle. And GameCube prices for games is astronomical. So like, heck yeah, I'm going to pay $50 a year for access to some solid, like really cool generation of gaming that gets lost, especially if there's like Chibi Robo gets on there, F-Zero GX, you know? The fact that it's Sega Genesis, to me, is not a value add. It's kind of like, well, that's like a little like extra bonus, I guess. I'm probably not going to touch that. Like you said, I have the Genesis collection, and like, what else are you gonna put on NSO that's not already there? Like, online is cool, but I don't know, fix your online, then talk to me about the price hike. That's, you know, like I'm gonna pay it, and actually a bunch of us are going to go in on a family plan, so that like makes it way easier to digest. But yeah, I'm
just kind of confused with the direction that they're going with this.
Yeah,
by adding in the Animal Crossing DLC whenever it's already available to purchase outside of here. Like,
and that's weird.
I could understand if it wasn't available for purchase and this was the only way you could get it. That would make sense, but to tie it into the service and then also sell it separately, you would think that anybody that wants it would just purchase it.
Maybe
because then you keep it for longer than a year.
Because then you're not tied.
Unless they come out and explicitly say otherwise, and it could be the case that, you know, by having a subscription, you get a code or something, and then you just buy it.
Here's my theory.
Through that.
Here's my theory. They launched the NSO with just NES games, and then later they added Super Nintendo at no extra charge. So maybe we're going to get more systems in the expansion pass?
But you can't sell people on maybe we'll add something.
Yeah, but I'm just
and that's still an issue even with the games they said on the way. We don't know how soon they're coming. We don't know if that's it,
right,
or if there's going to be more. When they launched NES, they actually did, for I think close to a full year, they said 3 games a month. We're adding 3 new games every month.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to make sure you kept a subscription every month. Now, there is no monthly option for the expansion.
Yeah, they cut it out.
You have to pay it annually.
Pay it by the year.
So that's the other strange thing here, is they want to lock you in for a year, but you don't know what's coming in that year.
Yeah, I'm buying it.
And I think that's another reason for the kind of sticker shock on it too, because
disconnect.
You think about it, $50 for a year is still less than $5 a month. It really isn't fair to compare this to Game Pass. Game Pass is more expensive.
Game Pass is more expensive. It's different. The value just doesn't feel there, and that's what I think people are really upset about. And I agree.
Well, and it's more just the increase over the base plan.
Yeah.
I think the base plan is a great deal. This is a much worse deal.
You need to find a group of friends and do a family plan.
Because I've at least been conditioned by the way different stores work around me, that when you bundle things together, you usually need to increase the value. When you buy one scoop of ice cream at the ice cream parlor, your second scoop costs less than the first. This is like the second scoop costing $4 when the first scoop costed $2.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, why?
Yeah.
Like, even if $6 is somehow a good deal for a double scoop ice cream cone,
I think Nintendo is
you're confusing me here.
I think Nintendo is assigning too much value to N64 games. Because they did that on the Wii too. They were more.
They did, and I don't think anybody complained when they were 1,200 Wii points.
Well, if you break out the Animal Crossing DLC is a $25 deal. So I mean, essentially, if you break down the structure of the price, you're only paying $5 for the N64.
But what if I don't want? What if I don't even own Animal Crossing? That's the problem.
But again, it is a less than $25 value because you do not get to keep it.
Well, yeah, that's what
you lose it after a year. The $25 you pay, you get to keep that. Yet.
We don't know. Like you said, you might get a code
until they tell us otherwise. We have to assume we're going to lose it after a year.
Yeah, but why would you separate?
Why would they do
the sales of the DLC between?
But I mean, that's the thing. I suspect maybe not, because Animal Crossing doesn't require an online connection to play. Now, it might be that the game checks online whenever you try to access the Happy Home Paradise Island. And if it says, oh, you didn't buy the DLC, or, oh, your subscription's up, you can't go there. Sorry. But that's also like kind of a blow to just the value of the DLC, because now you have to be online to play the DLC, which is weird.
I don't think that. I think it almost has to be a code, kind of like.
I would like them to clarify that, but I mean, since it's tied to an annual service, I don't know how that's going to work.
We'll know on November 4th. And will the new N64 Genesis games be considered accessible enough for Retro Rewind? Yes, they will be. If you need help getting a plan to participate in Retro Rewind, then let us know. We have lots of people with family plans in the Discord who are happy to help you out with that. Final question, John.
So Trash Turkey asks, favorite game soundtrack that's not Plock?
Donkey Kong Country.
Donkey Kong Country is a good one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I might have to agree with that. So
it's
a good right off
hard
the start.
to beat. Hard to beat David Wise.
And something
who was inspired by Plock.
I keep going back to is I've been playing, was it Risk of Rain?
Yeah.
2. That game has a phenomenal soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it's hard not to go to the usual suspects. Your Mega Mans, your Zeldas, your Castlevanias.
Castlevania is pretty sick.
Yeah,
that's some good stuff.
Very dope.
It definitely is.
Breath of the Wild. For sure.
I'll have to send that soundtrack your way, Dan, so you can check it out. It'd be right up your alley.
What is it? Oh, Risk of Rain?
Risk of Rain.
Yeah, dude, do it.
I mean, I kind of want to throw a curveball and throw out like another Tim Follin like game that has a soundtrack it doesn't deserve, like Pictionary for the NES. But if I'm being honest, I'd probably just go with the Mega Man series as a whole.
Awesome.
They're definitely great music.
That's great. All right, guys. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Flightsy. Thank you, Trash Turkey, for your questions and Prices Retro lists. If you want to send us a question or a Prices Retro list, you can DM me on Twitter at RetroLogic Games, or you can DM me in our Discord community. And thanks for... Oh, gosh. My voice is like... I burped, and then my voice is going, and just we have to end the show because I'm about to lose it all together. Thanks for listening to the Retrologic podcast. We are proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Retrologic Games. You're also welcome to jump into our friendly and non-toxic Discord community. The link to that is in my Twitter bio. Or you can find everything, the store, the blog, the Discord link, the merch, is all at the website retrologic.games. Thanks for sticking with us, and we will see y'all next week.